got myself an awful lot of codexes to read, so... Console races then? No.
The Asari.
Ships and vehicles.
Faster than light. Larger warships are generally classified in one of 4 weights. Frigates are small, fast ships used for scouting and screening of larger vessels. Frigates often operate in wolf pack flotillas. Cruisers are middleweight combatants, faster than dreadnoughts and more heavily armed than frigates. Cruisers are the standard patrol unit and often lead frigate flotillas. Dreadnoughts are kilometer-long capital ships mounting heavy, long-range firepower. They are only deployed for the most vital missions. Carriers are dreadnought-sized vessels that also carry large numbers of fighters. Smaller vessels are almost exclusively used in a support role to the warships during combat. Fighters are one-man craft used to perform close-range attacks on enemy ships. Interceptors are one-man craft optimized for destroying opposing fighters. Faster-than-light drives use element 0 cores to reduce the mass of the ship, allowing higher rates of acceleration. This effectively raises the speed of light within the mass effect field, allowing high-speed travel with negligible relativistic time dilation effects. Starships still require conventional thrusters, chemical rockets, commercial fusion torch, economy ion engine, or military anti-proton drive, in addition to the FTL drive core. With only a core, a ship has no motive power. The amount of EZO and power required for a drive increases exponentially to the mass being moved and the degree it is being lightened. Very massive ships or very high speeds are prohibitively expensive. If the field collapses while the ship is moving at faster than light speed, the effects are catastrophic. The ship is snapped back to sublight velocity, the enormous excess energy shed in the form of lethal Cherenkov radiation.
Okay, interesting. Cherenkov radiation. Cherenkov radiation was the stuff that is glowing in the water in a nuclear power plant. But I don't know what frequency this actually is. It's like a bluish greenish hue. That's that thing. Anyway, did we ever look into the genophage? I think not. The genophage bioweapon was created to end the Krogan rebellions. From the start, the Krogan had overwhelmed the Council. Only timely first contact with the Turian saved the Council races. The Turians thawed the Krogan to a standstill, but sheer weight of Krogan numbers indicated the war could not be won through conventional means. The Turians collaborated with the Salarians to genetically engineer a counter to the rapid breeding of the Krogans. The genophage virus gained the energy to replicate by eating key genetic sequences. Every cell in every Krogan had to be altered for the weapon to be foolproof. Otherwise, the Krogan could have used gene therapy to fix the affected tissues. Once a genophage strain could find no more genes to eat, it would starve and die, limiting spin-off mutation and contamination. This created genetic flaw in is hereditary. Very interesting. So once you put that thing in, it just propagates through the whole population. And that eating thing, basically, it's like CRISPR-Cas. It just goes in there and, takes out that genetic material. But then what you have to do, because it's still there, this genetic material, right? It's just taken kind of out of it. What you actually have to do is like alter it in a way to deactivate that piece of the genetic code. If you want to eat it, then that means you have to completely dismantle that part of the genetic code. So you have to kind of shred it. This is actually, oh boy, you could actually do something like this today. It's not that far-fetched. Like all of that technology that we see in Mass Effect, like a game from like 10 years ago, is basically developed now. We are now in the time of Mass Effect, or at least like early kind of Mass Effect. It's kind of strange. Or like, well, the development took place like 10 years in the past, so the time that Mass Effect actually started. But the thing is, right now, all of that technology becomes more mainstream, let's say. Like, we got AI, we got CRISPR-Cas, maybe we even get like Mass Effect fields or something like that. Yeah, but it's basically those two things. Anything else though? Maybe you could think of all of those races here that all have different attitudes towards each other as some kind of extension of the human races, like countries and yeah, as countries or something like that. That's basically what you could think about it. Anyway, the Quarian economy. The migrant fleet has little economic base, operating in a state of perpetual hand-to-mouth. What did I say? Too much control, no economy. Hand-to-mouth. While Quarian ships include light manufacturing and assembly plants, they lack heavy industries such as refining and shipbuilding. The fleet has tankers for water purification and oxygen cracking, but the space-intensive nature of agriculture limits food production. A single disaster could destroy the fragile balance, and this is exactly why you need trade for it, right? So, because the Quarians are basically forced to travel, right, and to bring things of worth back to the flotilla. And they basically are masters of like making things work. So that basically would mean that they are able to acquire an enormous amount of knowledge, and that knowledge is actually something that they could trade in for materials, like things, whatever, and services, goods and services, to make their lives easier. The thing that limits them, right, that makes them that forces them to go out and search for stuff, is actually the thing that gives them the most value. It's their sheer knowledge and adaptability. That's the thing that they need to sell. It's actually quite interesting. Their greatest weakness is their greatest strength, if they would use it. Anyway, the Quarians earn income in creative ways. What did I say? I should have just continued reading. Because the government is obliged to provide food, water, air, and medical support for every individual, the Conclave strategically determines the course of the fleet to bring in resources and income. A species who suspects the migrant fleet is heading towards their space often offers a gift to surplus starships, fuel, and resources to convince the Conclave to alter course. Wait a minute. No, we have to read this again. A species who suspects the migrant fleet, so the Quarians coming in, is heading towards their space, often offer a gift of surplus starships, fuel, and resources to convince the Conclave to alter course. So they're basically getting bribed, they are getting bribed to not come into contact with the other races because they don't like them. Very interesting. As the fleet passes through a system, swarms of mining vessels work over asteroids for metals and siliceous materials and cometary bodies for water, ice, and organics. Quarian miners are adept at locating and strip mining space-borne resources. This sparks conflict with corporations already working the system. Ownership is basically questioned with that. I mean, yeah, and the thing that makes the economy basically work, right? The idea of ownership. That's their greatest weakness, and because they ignore that idea, that core idea that would make their life so much easier, that is just really iffy. Anyway, large mining concerns spend millions on lobbyists and public relations, portraying the Quarians as locusts, devouring the resources of the system before moving on. The greatest asset of the Quarians is their rarefied skills. Most are experienced miners due to their life of perpetual salvage and repair. They are skilled engineers, technicians. More than once, the very corporations that lobby against the Quarians have made backroom deals with the fleet, arranging for skilled Quarians to fill space engineer jobs that other species would demand higher wages for. Quarians are widely hated among the working classes. The Quarians are coming to take our jobs is a common response to the fleet's approach. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Oh, this is awesome. This game is absolutely I don't know why, but this game is absolutely current. It's like, bam, it's the check our job. Wow. Okay, what about the government? Due to the Quarians' precocious existence and the need to enforce strict rationing, government is somewhat autocratic. The migrant fleet's operations are directed by the Admiralty, a board of 5 military officers who are advised by a legislative body called the Conclave. Each vessel in the fleet has the right to send representatives to the Conclave aboard the flagship. The number of representatives is based on crew size. Larger clans with bigger ships and more votes form the cores of political blocs. Opposition comes from the Outriders coalition with delegates from thousands of smaller ships. The Admiralty defers to the Conclave's decisions in most circumstances. However, if all 5 members agree that a Conclave decision jeopardizes the survival of the fleet and cannot get the Conclave to address their concerns, they have the right to summarily overturn the legislative decision. After the Admiralty uses this extraordinary power, they must resign. If the Admiralty does not step down after using their veto, the rest of the military is obliged to arrest them. So this is the limit. So they can basically veto with all their might against the decision, but so that they do not abuse that power for themselves constantly, they have to resign. So it's a last line of defense kind of thing. Very interesting idea. It's actually pretty good. Anyway, each ship captain has authority over his vessel, but is advised by an elected civilian council. Just as the Admiralty is advised by the Conclave, this relationship may range from cooperation to polite tolerance to outright hostility. But any captain who overrules his council without good reason is relieved of command by the Admiralty. Going back to that paragraph over there. So the thing about it though is that because the admirals maybe still want to be in power, right? They will not veto as often as they should, right? So the idea is to keep the admirals in check so that they do not use the veto too often, but maybe they should use it more often. And the fear of them stepping down, or the idea of them stepping down, is actually not what they want. Yeah, there's a certain balance act that is not quite achieved there. It's just a halfway question, halfway like solution to a question. So, many Quarians ships are owned by clans who pool their resources to purchase used vessels from private sellers. Large ships are prestigious for big, rich clans, but a small ship means status for a small clan with enough personal wealth to afford a private vessel. Clan vessel captains are not subject to dismissal by the Admiralty. Abusive captains are a family problem with if they do not disrupt the operations of the fleet. Okay. So it's a big family with big problems. Sweet. The migrant fleet is the largest concentration of star-faring vessels in the galaxy. Sprawling across millions of kilometers, it can take days for the entire fleet to pass through a mass relay. When the Quarians fled their homeworld, The fleet was mostly aggregation of freighters, shuttles, and industrial vessels, and the odd warships. After 3 centuries, all have been modified to support larger crews as comfortable as possible. As the Quarians achieved stability, they began weeding out the ships least suitable for long-term habitation, selling them and pooling the money to buy larger and more space-worthy hulls. This process is ongoing as vessels wear out and break down. While some ships enjoy dedicated cabins with full privacy and sanitary facilities, many more are former freighters whose cargo bays and containers are pressurized and divided into family spaces using simple metal cubicle bulkheads. The Quarians live in these austere spaces with colorful quilts and tapestries, which also help muffle sound. The day-to-day operations of the fleet, traffic control, station keeping, supply distribution, and so on are under military jurisdiction, though ship captains have the authority to deviate from their assignment positions and may leave the fleet at any time. They are assumed to do so at their own risk. As the migrant fleet moves around the galaxy, many ships split off to pursue individual goals, returning days or years later. Yeah, and then we also got the pilgrimage, but I think I already read that one. Coins are surgically fitted with their various immunity boosting stuff with the migrant because of their sterility. So, Humanity and Systems Alliance. The human diplomatic relationships. Oh, did I ever read that one? Humanity has encountered many galactic species wars. Wars have been few, but mistrust is rife. Politically, the Alliance is a peaceful trade partner of the Turians. As a practical matter, however, there's simmering antagonism and bigotry between both populations over the First Contact War of 2157. The Alliance enjoys good relations with the Asari, though many privately believe the matriarchs are aristocratic and overcautious. Though humans know better than to unconditionally trust any Salarian, their shared restless, reckless ways make them naturally allies against the conservative Turians and Asari. The Krogan have no unified government, but individuals are generally treated as potential criminals, a reputation most Krogan enjoy living down to. The Alliance has informal contact with the Quarians. Their migrant fleet has not yet passed through any human-settled system. And this might be why everything is okay so far. The Batarians are rivals for control of the Skelian Verge. They severed their treaties with the Citadel to prosecute a colonial conflict against the Alliance. Officially, there is no war, but neither is there any peace. Systems Alliance military ranks. The Alliance uses a modified version of the ranking system that has been used for hundreds of years. Soldiers are classified into rank and file and listed. Personnel operations, experienced non-commissioned officers, the NCOs, and specially trained officers. The divide between naval personnel and ground forces, Marines, is small. Ground units are a specialized branch of the fleet, just as fighter squadrons are. This unity of command is imposed by the futility of fighting without control of orbit. Without the Navy, any army is pointless. The Marines, as a matter of pride, maintain some of their traditional rank titles. For example, Marines have privates and corporals instead of servicemen. In ascending order of responsibility, the ranks of the Alliance are enlisted servicemen, 3rd class, 2nd and 1st class. Also like private 2nd class, servicemen, private 1st class. So this is go like servicemen, private, servicemen, corporal. What's the difference between the servicemen and the private though? For example, Marines have privates and corporals instead of servicemen. So it's just there as like comparison. Anyway, The NCOs: Service Chief, Gunnery Chief, Operations Chief, and Officer, Second Lieutenant, First Lieutenant, Staff Lieutenant, Lieutenant Commander, Lieutenant. Then it's Lieutenant Commander, Staff Commander, Captain or Major, Rear Admiral or General, then the Admiral, and then Fleet Admiral. Sweet. Ships and vehicles, the crew considerations. Cabins give each individual 10 cubic meters of space. On large vessels, private rooms are common. As ships get smaller, the number of crew packed into a single walled room increases. Asari prefer shared spaces, even on large vessels, while Krogan territorial instincts make it impossible for them to cohabitate, even on the smallest ships. On smaller vessels, hot bunking is the norm. Crew members assigned to different watches share the same bunk. When one gets off duty, he wakes up the person in the bunk while that crewman is on duty. The first gets his rack time. Spacecraft compartments can be isolated by airtight doors in case of decompression. The cinematic vision of explosive decompression is fiction. Hold compartments either take enough damage that occupants are killed instantly, or leak slowly enough that they are able to reach protective gear. Compartments are equipped with emergency life support apparatus, fireproof plastic bubbles with air bottles, small when stowed, and else are comfortably accommodated one individual inflated. Comfortably accommodate one individual inflated. But what does ELSA actually mean? Damage control procedure cuts off ventilation to burning compartments. Without oxygen to consume, fire dies in seconds. The compartment is repressurized afterwards for crew recovery. But sometimes if the heat is still there, it can reignite again because there's oxygen coming back. So, Mass Effect fields create an artificial gravity aircraft plane below the decks, preventing muscle atrophy and bone loss in 0G. It's not 0G anymore if there's artificial gravity. Large vessels arrange their decks perpendicular to their thrust axis. The highest decks are at the bow and the lowest at the engines. This allows a craft to work with the inertial effects of the thrust. Ships that can land arrange their docks laterally, so the crew can move about while the vessel is on the ground. Warships normally turn off their aircraft systems during combat, reducing the heat generated by systems and increasing combat endurance. To provide a point of reference for navigating in 0G, floors are painted a different color from the walls and ceiling. Oh, this is actually a really good idea. So you always know where the bottom is, or where something or like the bottom is supposed to be. And we got more technology.
The Biotics is the ability of rare
Element
individual.
Zero.
When subjected to an electrical current, the rare material dubbed Element Zero, or EZO, emits a dark energy field that raises or lowers the mass of all objects within it. This mass effect is used in countless ways, from generating artificial gravity to manufacturing high-strength construction materials. It is most prominently used to enable faster-than-light space travel. EZO is generated when solid matter, such as a planet, is affected by the energy of a star going supernova. The material is common in the asteroid debris that orbits neutron stars and pulsars. These are dangerous places to mine, requiring extensive use of robotics, telepresence, and shielding to survive the incredible radiation from the dead star. Only a few major corporations can afford the setup costs required to work these primary sources. Humanity discovered refined Element Zero at the Prothean research station on Mars, allowing them to create Mass Effect fields and develop FTL travel.
So without it, they would have been screwed. Mass Effect fields.
Element Zero can increase or decrease the mass of a volume of space-time when subjected to an electrical current. With a positive current, mass is increased. With a negative current, mass is decreased. The stronger the current, the greater the magnitude of the dark energy mass effect. In space, low-mass fields allow FTL travel and inexpensive surface-to-orbit transit. High mass fields create artificial gravity and push space debris away from vessels. In manufacturing, low mass fields permit the creation of evenly blended alloys, while high mass compaction creates dense, sturdy construction materials. The military makes extensive use of mobility-enhancing technologies, with Mass Effect utilizing fighting vehicles standard frontline issue in most military forces. Mass Effect fields are also essential in the creation of kinetic barriers or shields to protect against enemy fire. Omni-tools are handheld devices that combine a computer microframe, sensor analysis pack, and manufacturing fabricator. Versatile and reliable, an Omni-tool can be used to analyze and adjust the functionality of most standard equipment, including weapons and armor, from a distance. The fabrication module can rapidly assemble small three-dimensional objects from common reusable industrial plastics, ceramics, and light alloys. This allows for field repairs and modifications to most standard items, as well as the reuse of salvaged equipment. Omni-tools are standard issue for soldiers and first-in colonists.
Nice. And so much so for all of that. Let's just position ourselves a wee bit better. I have to get to the... what? The thing is, you can kind of walk around next to the map. On Earth was it? Somewhere over there. So the ceiling is in a bright state. Yeah, ceiling definitely looks different than the floor. But the stairs are a wee bit weird. One thing that's really kind of weird is the fact that there's this like bend on the wall. Why is that? It's a really strange question. Strange thing. I thought I had like an office somewhere. Anyway. Oh, one last codex for the galaxy map. Alright.
The Citadel is an ancient deep... Citadel space is an unofficial term referring to any region of space controlled by a species that acknowledges the authority of the Citadel Council. At first glance, it appears this territory encompasses most of the galaxy. In reality, however, less than 1% of the stars have been explored. Even Mass Effect FTL drive is slow relative to the volume of the galaxy. Empty space and systems without suitable drive discharge sites are barriers to exploration. Only the mass relays allow ships to jump hundreds of light years in an instant, the key to expanding across an otherwise impassable galaxy. Whenever a new relay is activated, the destination system is rapidly developed. From that hub, FTL drive is used to expand to nearby star clusters. The result is a number of densely developed clusters, thinly spread across the vast expanse of space, connected by the mass relay network.
And in the end, it all points down to the Citadel. Okay, let's end this right now and continue with space travel in the next one. Until then, like and subscribe, of course, as usual, and ta-ta!